Well, ladies and gentlemen, we do have the undeniable proof that Republicans, as long as things keep trending the way they currently are, will be massive, overwhelming favorites in the Electoral College when it updates in 2030, which will then influence the 2032 election. And this is part of the reason why liberals are twisting themselves into a pretzel, saying that, oh, we've got the 15 to 20 million illegals here. We need to give them amnesty and let them vote because we're going to lose significant population, in all these big states, and it's going to cause us to lose electoral votes. We have to replace all of those people with the illegal immigrants, with the migrants. That's why they're so pro-immigration, because immigrants come in, they vote Democrat 70-30. They need the replacement. They need to bring them in, and because, they're replacing the people that are leaving California, leaving New York, all the Americans that are fed up with how these states are run. And now you're even seeing Gavin Newsom come out and try and have a little change of heart and do a little, oh, I'm a good governor now, I'm cleaning up the state and everything like that, to try and keep people in the state because they're going to lose more electoral votes in 2030. They need all the immigration. And so Kamala Harris comes out and says, oh, don't worry, guys, it's been so bad for 3.5 years, but we're going to stop the illegal immigration, but we're still going to give the 15 million illegals amnesty because we need them in the country to drive back up the electoral votes, because we're going to be losing population in all the major Democratic states because they're all cesspools. That's what's going on right now. New population estimates released this week by the U.S. Census Bureau suggest that the shifts in political power after the 2030 census could be among the most profound in the nation's history. The congressional reappointment, which is something that liberals, they've got to get to. They got to get the immigrants in and get to replacing some of these people. I mean, this is serious what they're going to do. So let's take a look. Oregon looks like they're decreasing in population slightly. We'll have to see if they end up losing any electoral votes. There is something, I will note, something happening with Oregon where the eastern side of the country wants to join Idaho because they hate the politics in Portland and in the major cities. And obviously it's all rural people. And they've got a lot of counties that have agreed to do that. If that happens, I think Idaho's going to gain another electoral vote. Oregon's going to lose one. You do have people fleeing from California. You can see a significant loss there if the trend continues. Now, we'll have to see what ends up happening. This was done like late 2023, so maybe they'll stop losing people. Maybe Gavin Newsom. I mean, there definitely is an incentive there for them to clean up the homeless problem. There's videos now of Newsom going up, taking out the tents when they originally said no, it's their right to be there. But California, obviously a liberal hotbed that has lost significant population, potentially trending to lose more electoral votes in 2030. You've got Arizona possibly going up slightly in population. Arizona obviously is a swing state. Utah, a Republican state, possibly also going up slightly, along with Idaho. All of these other states like Washington, Nevada, Montana, Wyoming, all of the states that are in very, very light blue, there's really no increase or decrease that's that notable, at least not yet. Now, these are trends based in mid-2023. Obviously, at this point, we're almost done, or we're coming towards the end of 2024 here soon. And so it's going to have to be updated again. And the electoral votes, it's not going to go into effect until after 2030. So you've got this election where, honestly, if you look back at the 2020 census, Republicans, they did very well in terms of the states that are Republican strongholds gaining electoral votes, and the Democratic states like New York and California losing. I think Texas and Florida were the two biggest winners. New York, California, and Illinois, they all lost serious population because liberals in these big cities with the high taxes, nobody wants to live there. They're total cesspools. And don't just take my word for it. This is happening. Look at this. It's California. It's Illinois possibly losing more population, although they've said they stopped it, at least for the time being, but I think they'll probably lose another electoral vote. Minnesota, a more liberal state, but maybe trending towards being a swing state, but probably going to go to Kamala in 2024, possibly losing. Michigan, possibly also losing some population. Ohio has lost some electoral votes recently. I think they lost like 2 or 3 electoral votes within the last 2 censuses. You've also got Pennsylvania possibly losing one. Obviously, Michigan and Pennsylvania, they're pure swing states. New York, I mean, look at the big losers. It's really New York and California losing potentially more electoral votes. Illinois as well. Those 3 are pure Democrat strongholds. There's zero chance Republican, or I won't say zero chance, but there's an extremely low chance a Republican can ever be competitive in those states, meaning that that's going to significantly hurt them. You've got Florida now, which is a Republican state, possibly being one of the big gainers going into 2030, because you also have to understand the last time the census was done in 2020, in 2021 and 2022, you still have loads and loads of people moving to Florida based off of the restrictions and how open Florida was in terms of the pandemic. Because the pandemic, the major pandemic year, see, in 2020, everything was shut down. 2021, that's when everyone really moved. So that really wasn't counted in 2020. Florida's going to gain electoral votes. And if Republicans can keep Florida going into the 2032 election, this is going to be I'm just telling you, this is exactly why people may say, well, it's a far away. They have to import the immigrants to replace all of the people that are leaving California, Illinois. I mean, look at all the immigrants now in New York overrunning that state. Their bad leadership is causing all of this, and it's going to be very hard for them to win a national election based on Republican states like Texas and Florida. And they'll say, oh, now Texas is a swing state, because this is what liberals have told me. They've said, we're so bad at leadership that we force our own people that vote for us out of our state, and they go to Texas, but then we're going to win Texas because they're still going to vote for us. So that's what's happening. You've got people in California, the state's such a shithole, they have to leave, then they go to Texas, but they still vote liberal. So that is what happens. But with Texas, as long as Trump wins Texas by around 5 or 6 points, it's got a big enough population where I don't see it shifting and really becoming a crazy swing state, at least for 2 or 3 more election cycles. Hopefully never. Really, hopefully never. But these numbers, this just goes to show you the shift we're seeing and why they need all these immigrants. It's not even just for the swing states, because people say, well, you would think they would just be shipping them to Michigan or Pennsylvania. Well, they also need them in California and in New York to maintain the population, because people don't want to live there anymore, and it's going to cost them significant electoral votes, possibly 2, 3, 4 electoral votes, and it's going to make the math even easier because of what Republicans have done in Ohio and in Florida in specific. Why do you think they keep talking about North Carolina being the swing state that Harris can win when Trump's won it the last 2 times, and now he's got way better numbers than he did in 2020 or 2016, but they're making this up and trying to gaslight everyone like she's going to win it because they're desperate and they don't have the math this year like they had it in 2020 and 2016. See, this time in 2020, they were talking about how they would win Ohio and win Florida. They can't do that now. Florida's gone. They even admit it's gone. And so they need other states to make up for it. And you've even got Georgia, which you could argue, I think you could say it's a pure swing state. I think it's still a slight Republican lean state. Democrats won it by like 1,000 votes in 2020. Republicans, they routinely won Georgia, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina. North Carolina, more of a swing state. But the reality is many of these states that are gaining electoral votes or should be gaining electoral votes in 2030 with the updated census, it's going to be very, very bad for liberals, very bad, because they're all fleeing. And remember, a lot of what happened when it came to the pandemic and everyone leaving Illinois and everyone leaving California, it happened in 2021 after the 2020 census. So there's a delay there. And that's why you've got articles like this that come out and say it's going to be a historic change when it comes to this, because of the once in a century pandemic that forced people based on not being open. A lot of these liberal states not being open, California being so bullheaded, they were closed that you couldn't do anything. Mid 2022, you couldn't even do anything there because they wanted to win some political battle. It was Newsom against DeSantis, and we saw how that worked out. They're down 4 Republicans, up 3 in Florida. So these are the change in seats, and this will coincide and have an effect in terms of the Electoral College if this does shift like this in 2030. And that's why the migrants are so important for them. And it's so important that Kamala Harris wins, because they're going to give the illegals that are already in the country amnesty, and then they're going to go back to importing all of the illegals. And she says, we're going to secure the border. Normally what tends to happen, and what I would expect to happen, is they'll try and secure it for like half a year, and then they'll open it up and rain hell. And then they've got Kamala Harris with the incumbent advantage in 2028. And so that's just what they're trying to get us to do. It's like, you have to embrace this. If you don't embrace it, you're racist. But this is, they need it to stay in power. That's why they're doing this. And then they gaslight and say, if you don't embrace it, you're racist, when really they're just using these people for votes. And they really don't care about American safety, just like all the migrants causing all the car crashes. And really, I mean, the SAVE Act, not voting on that. I mean, that's a dead giveaway. That we're trying to make sure everyone has legit voter ID. Why would that not pass? Why would you shut down the government over that? We'll see if they end up doing it or not. But this is good news for conservatives, and it'll be interesting to see how they combat this if Harris wins in 2024. they're going to have to get a lot more votes and get a big voter base. And that's going to be importing all the immigrants from other countries. And then just one other thing I wanted to mention when it comes to many of these states losing electoral votes, a lot of it has to do with the crazy taxes. I don't think there's once you live outside of California, I mean, unless you're really rich with especially if Kamala Harris, her tax plan goes into effect, it's going to be so bad. I mean, you're talking about like just off of investments, a 55-60% tax, you got a 15% state income tax. You've got a 45% capital gains tax. Even if you're in a lower bracket, it's still upwards of like 33-40%. Also, the short-term gains tax in California off of either crypto or stocks, that's another horrible thing. So a lot of this, it doesn't even matter whether it's homeless or what. It's just the cost of living in these liberal states is so bad because they tax so absorbently that something's going to have to give. And it is kind of funny that Trump wants no state income tax. That could actually help liberals because many of these liberal states, people are leaving them because they're just not going to pay the taxes. And you've got states where there is zero state income tax. California, 12%. I mean, that's over a tenth of your income just by living in California. Now, obviously, there are going to be more opportunities in California than some of these states that have a zero, and also some of the property taxes make up for it. I do understand that as well. If a state has zero state income tax, there's going to be high property taxes, or normally it trends that way. But still, it's so crazy that that's a main reason as to why many of these people are leaving, whether it's Illinois, whether it's California, whether it's New York. Those are the three big ones. The taxes in all three of those are horrible, especially New York and California. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.